Hello and welcome back to the Dugout podcast. This is episode number 60. Today we are here to talk about Scotland, just everything that's happened over the international break. And I'm joined by my co host, Ethan Barlow. And Ethan, it was a good start for Scotland's World Cup qualifiers, isn't it?
Yeah, we're a third of the way to the World Cup already. No, it's a really good start. 4 points is what we ideally wanted from the two games. It's what we got. Not the prettiest games of football, but I don't think any Scotland fan will care if we're in the hat for the draw for the States, the Canada and Mexico World Cup next year. So yeah, a really good start, really positive for Scotland fans, and I think there's growing positivity amongst the Tartan Army as to what we can do over the next four games.
Yeah, definitely. Um, I think the two performances, we'll go more in depth into them separately, but neither of them were great, but there are positives to take. And I think if you'd asked if you wanted 4 points, if you got 4 points from your opening two games, a draw away to Denmark and a win in Hungary against Belarus, you would have bitten their hand off for that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly that, and that's what we've done. Job done. That's the way to look at it. And yeah, as you said, and I said before, it wasn't the best performances, but it was professional performances that got the job done on each respective night. And now we've got a massive game next up, which I think is possibly be the biggest game of the group. And if we win that and win at home to Belarus, which you expect to do, and I know there's a lot of ifs, and but then the group is really could be taken away from Greece already, and then at the very least we're guaranteed second place. So massive game next, possibly the biggest game in the group at home to Greece at Hampden, and we need to right the wrongs of that Nations League tie where they battered us, quite frankly, at Hampden, and it was a really disappointing evening.
Yeah, just before we talk about the upcoming games, I'm going to take us back to Friday. You mentioned professional performances, and I think Friday night at the Parken Stadium in Copenhagen in Denmark was the definition of a professional performance. Scotland were solid defensively, difficult to break down. I only remember maybe one clear cut chance for, well, two clear cut chances for Denmark, and both of them were offside in the end, and they didn't they didn't do too well with those chances anyway. So yeah, it was a really good performance from Scotland. Maybe a bit lacking in the attacking areas. Ethan, I know you wanted to just want at some point Scotland to take a little bit of a risk and go for it late on in the game. They didn't really do that. They did have some opportunities that maybe should have done better with. I think ones that come to mind are Ryan Christie. Um, I think that's the toughest of the three. Scott McTominay should have cut it across rather than shooting, and Lyndon Dykes that I saw a clip of that with the Newcastle commentators over it. Just put it in the net. So I he should have done much better with that. But overall, Ethan, it was a solid performance from Scotland.
Yeah, another pretty poor game of football to watch, and a trend we've seen with Scottish football in some big games recently. But it got the job done, and it was a professional performance. A few question marks over Steve Clarke's selections were had before the game, especially with Grant Hanley and Shea Adams and Lyndon Dykes, from my point of view. But I think Shea Adams and Grant Hanley, especially, done themselves no wrong. Shea Adams was involved in positive ways. Grant Hanley defended well, and so did Scotland as a unit. And although Denmark across the 90 minutes didn't really impress me that much, and I never really thought, oh, Scotland are really under the cosh here, and Denmark are going to get a goal. But Scotland still had to defend moments really well, and obviously Lyndon Dykes has the biggest chance where he should just let it fly first time. And yeah, but can't have too many complaints. I do say that I wanted them to make the bulk of the substitutions a little bit earlier in the match before the 80th minute, just to try and have a go at it, because we'll get on to a player that he could have brought on the bench and that night, and I don't think should be on the bench for any future Scotland games to come. Ben Gannon Doak we'll get on to.
Do you think,
But yeah,
although see in the game last night, though, he was taken off around the 60, 70 mark. So do you think he's still struggling coming back from that injury, and that's why Clark didn't throw him in from the start on
yeah,
Friday?
quite possibly. Yeah, you could be right there. Definitely, and that's obviously why Aaron Hick. That's the only reason why Steve Clark made the early sub the other night when he brought off Aaron Hickey for Max Johnson, who obviously nearly got sent off, which would have been a ridiculous red card, I think, for handball. But no, a really professional scoreline, result, defensive performance. Angus Gunn done his job. He did leave me panicking at a few moments, especially with his punching. But he made the saves he needed to make, and the defence done their job. And the after last night's, as we're recording this, result in Piraeus between Greece and Denmark, it looks like an even better point on the road than maybe what we thought on the night. And yeah, carrying that into the game in Hungary was just the perfect really camp. And we did see a few positives. There's a few negatives of the camp we'll get on to, but yeah, a really good, not really good, a really solid performance from Scotland in the parking, and a decent point to take into the rest of the camp, or the
Yeah,
rest of the campaign. Sorry.
yeah, and obviously Greece with the 5-1 victory over Belarus on Friday night. However, like you just alluded to, Ethan, Denmark came back with a vengeance. Perhaps they were frustrated after that draw at home to us, who are always the underdogs, who are always the nasty team who don't like to play football, that kind of team. So I'd imagine they were a bit frustrated, and they came out and battered Greece 3-0 in their own backyard. Greece getting a taste of their own medicine there as well. Obviously, they done
Yeah.
that to us. But
Yeah,
I,
good. Sorry, I was just going to say, I'm sorry to jump on top of you there. I was just going to say, in Greece barely sort of put a glove on Denmark in the game as well. Four shots, one on target, 0.17 XG. So Greece, sorry, really not threatening Denmark at all, and it was an easy game for the Danes, which we didn't expect going into it. I thought it was going to be a tight game that could have really went either way, but obviously not, and it makes the prospect of the fact that we've not played Greece yet, me a little bit more confident about it. And it makes the fact that we have played Denmark over there in Copenhagen and got a really positive result feel even better about that. And I'm saying if we get 6 points in the next two games, then it could be massive, and we could be looking at a real prospect of, at the very least, finishing in the top two in the group. And I know that would mean 2 rounds of two-legged playoff ties, which would be pretty difficult. But if you're carrying momentum of possibly even an unbeaten at this stage, we could go unbeaten for the rest of this campaign and still drop in second place. And yeah, I think, and I've seen another thing, doesn't mean anything, but Football Meets Data has moved Scotland to now favourites for second instead of Greece. So yeah, I think there's definitely things to be confident about as a Scotland fan, but we've seen this story all too many times before, and we just need to take one game at a time. And but we're in a good place at the moment, and I'm excited for the next camp coming up next month, and then the following month in November it'll be all over, and we'll learn our fate. Well, unless we go into the playoffs, obviously. I think that's next spring that you learn whether you will be in the World Cup if you're going through that. But hopefully we can win the group, although it is still a big task on Steve Clark and the players. But yeah, good start.
yeah, and on that, uh, just on that Greece game, I was watching something, I can't remember what it was, but it was speaking about how Greece approached it and about how they've been so confident recently. They've kind of been painted as this up and coming European side, a good generation of talent coming through for the Greeks. Uh, and they went against Denmark with their usual kind of aggressive approach. And like you said, Ethan, reading out the stats, it didn't work out for them on the attacking front, and it certainly didn't work out for them on the defensive front either. They we don't have the attacking same attacking talent as Denmark do, but I feel like if we approach the Greece game similarly to how we approached the Denmark game, well, not the home one. I think the home one we should be a bit more aggressive, but if we go away from home and keep it tight, and but be slightly more aggressive than the game on Friday, I feel like Greece is a side that we could beat, because I feel like that 3-0, was it 3-0? Was it? I
Yeah,
can't.
3-0 we won at Hampden, yeah, after we won 1-0 in Piraeus in the first leg.
Yeah, so that 3-0 defeat has kind of, I think, in our minds, has propelled Greece into this sort of level that they're perhaps not. Obviously, they're a very good team and it will be competitive, but I feel like we can do the double over them. But anyway, there was a game last night. Wasn't the best game again. Scotland went to Hungary and defeated Belarus by 2-0. Shea Adams and an own goal from, I'm not going to try and pronounce that. We'll just call him the Belarus defender. And yeah, it was fine. I think at times Scotland struggled to break Belarus down. I was getting really frustrated with Max Johnston just launching like stupid aimless balls into the box. He did have a couple of good ones, but the bad ones way outweighed the good ones, just pointless. And I was a bit confused as well because he's no slouch. So I don't know if it was the pitch conditions or if he didn't think he could make it. But I thought there was a few opportunities. Just try and drive around the outside, take it
Yeah,
further. But he was launching it in for deep all the time, a lot of the time into the goalkeeper's hands. Scotland did settle in. They got that opening goal, and the worst after that, and at the start of the second half, I think we were breaking Belarus down a bit more. Obviously, got the second through a nice bit of play. That the Belarus defender scored a cracking header. Uh, but I know he was unfortunate. He was unfortunate. He was just trying to steer it wide, and it didn't quite get the direction on it. But there was a nice move initially from Scotland to break them down, and like I said, Shea Adams got his goal, and as well, it's funny because I wouldn't. We all wanted Kieran Bowie to start, but after Shea Adams' sort of overall play performance against Denmark, and he obviously got a goal and he was decent last night as well in overall play. Um, I think for now he's solidified himself as Scotland's starting striker, Ethan.
yeah, quite possibly. The two performances have been at a good level from Shea Adams. He gets the goal and kind of an assist, you could call it, for the second one. He's obviously very heavily involved in it. But yeah, I was disappointed to see Kieran Bowie not start the first match and then not start the second, but understood why. And but him not to even get a minute on the pitch, I thought, or his debut, I thought was a bit disappointing. There was four outfield players that weren't used at all by Steve Clark. Jack Hendry, Dom Hyam, who wasn't in the squad yesterday, I noticed. Josh Doige and Kieran Bowie were the ones who weren't used. And Steve Clark, even though I think this is the negative point from the game, even though we were 2-0 up, pretty comfortable, Steve Clark didn't make his first substitution until Carlos Alos, the Belarus manager, had made all five of his. So it shows that obviously that Steve Clark's philosophy is to, to make his substitutions a bit later. And I think sometimes it can be effective, but I think on occasions where you're trying to chase a game or switch it up to win a game, then I think they need to come a bit earlier. But obviously, it's worked out well so far. And yeah, Shea Adams, as you said, in the first half before he got his goal, I thought he was on the periphery of the match a little bit. Couldn't really get in the game in too many attacking areas. He was sort of dropping back and getting on the ball. Maybe down to that poor service from Max Johnson, especially. he was playing almost as like a right winger on that side with Ben Doak on the left flank, and he was just swinging aimless balls at times into the box, and the keeper was um, dealing with them pretty comfortably. And I think you've seen the quality. Obviously, Aaron Hickey, with a lot of Scotland, a lot of players in that squad, they are struggling for fitness at the start of the season. A few of them coming back from injuries and whatever. So you could make the case that this Scotland squad's only going to get better for the next two camps coming up when the players have got a lot more minutes for club under the bench, under the under their belt. Sorry, I'm thinking of your likes of your Aaron Hickeys, your Ryan Christies, Lewis Ferguson, even Billy Gilmore hasn't played a lot to start the season. Ben Gannon Doak as well. So yeah, there's a lot of positives to be taken from this camp. And yeah, I think I did think in the game, although Scotland dominated the ball for a lot of the first half, it was quite boring and we struggled to really create chances and break them down. I didn't think Billy Gilmore and Lewis Ferguson had the greatest grip on the game as the two deep line. I thought John McGinn and Scott McTominay were good. John McGinn's ball for the first goals.
Oh, Gilmore, he took a wee while to get going, but once he did, I thought he was pretty good.
Yeah, no, I would agree, and obviously he plays a massive part in that second goal. John McGinn, I was just going to say, was it's a great ball for the first goal, and Scott McTominay and that role that I want to see him in, sort of the box crasher, making the late runs into the box, and then he puts on a plate for Adams. I don't really know what the Belarus defender's doing. He sort of falls on his backside, but we'll take it. And Adams is in the right place, and despite me saying that he wasn't really in the game in the first half, he gets the goal, and that's his job as the striker, and he comes into it in the second half. And I thought Scott McTominay uh, showed his quality at times as well. Very easily could have had a penalty, and he just sort of showed that swagger as to why he's a Ballon d'Or candidate. But I thought the standout was Ben Gannon Doak. I thought he was excellent. He's so forward thinking, so positive, just want to take on his man every time, committing defenders. They were putting two and three out there, and he just was dealing with it really well. His decision making, which a lot of people pointed out, was really good as well. So many times he was getting defenders to close him down and then just laying the ball off to a teammate who was in space. And yeah, I think he's got to be, if he's fit, and hopefully he is, he's got to be in that starting 11 for the game against Greece next month. Would you agree?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Definitely, he was really good. He's a really good player. He's exciting, and aye, it's refreshing to see that in a Scotland team because we've not had anyone like that. I couldn't tell you the last like Scotland team that like excited, the last player in a Scotland team that really excited me. Like McTominay's different because he's just good. He's a machine.
Yeah,
Um, you know, and the other guys are all good at their own kind of thing. But this is like the wild card kind of player that you're like, wow. So yeah, hopefully, if he can develop and move forward, he can be our Gareth Bale.
yeah,
It's a really high bar to reach, but hopefully he'll be up there one day. He's still only 19, I think, or 20 or something, and he'll have a crucial role in a top 10 Premier League side this season, and that can only be good for him. And he seems like as well he's ready for the pressure.
yeah.
He understands that he understands how good he is, and he's ready to sort of take that on and just play. You know what I mean. I'm finding it difficult. It's maybe not the best description, but I'm finding it difficult to find the words to describe it. He looks like he relishes the challenge, and you saw that when he came on against Denmark as well. He hitting the side netting when that deflected the effort. He was so positive coming on from that point. This whole game, he was positive. And yeah, I think he should start against Greece in the next game, and Belarus in the next game, and Greece in the next game, and Denmark in the next game. I just and then when we've won the group and we're in the World Cup, start every group stage game. then start then
Right, we get the point. We get the point.
then
We're letting a bit
start
ahead of ourselves here.
then start all the way to the final, and then he'll miss a penalty in the shootout, and then I'll never want to see him in a Scotland squad again.
No, that's not what I want to hear. No, but I agree with you. I think he is. He's not a little boy anymore. He's a man now, and he takes the responsibility of being Scotland's main attacking outlet of just ball at feet play and being able to beat a man. And I think he's grew into that role over the last few camps. And if he can stay fit, which has been a question mark over his short career so far, then he can be a massive player for Scotland, and he can be that talismanic figure that maybe we need in that sense that can beat a man and gets the Hampden crowd off the edge of their seat. So yeah, I think really positive that he started that match, and it made the difference. I think on a lot of occasions. Some of the other changes, Matt Johnson, I think just came in because Aaron Hickey coming back from a bad, a terrible spell out. So and then Scott McKenna came in for Grant Hanley, which I think was, because Steve Clarke said, was sort of on the ball. Scott McKenna's better at playing out from the back and stuff like that. And personally, I think we both agreed that we'd rather have Scott McKenna in when we were going into this camp. Grant Hanley played well, but I think Scott McKenna's the answer going forward. Whether he'll be Steve Clarke's selection is another question entirely. Sorry. What was the other points on the game I was going to make? That's another one. Um, it was about the the referee. I don't know what you thought about the referee, Alex, but I thought that was one of the worst refereeing performances I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, he was given me. I don't know if he's ever seen like a physical football match, well, before. Um, so I think John Shooter got like 3 or 4 fouls given against him for winning a header.
Yeah,
Belarusian, Belarus.
Belarus, man, Belarus.
Uh,
Yeah,
the Belarusian attacker was just backing into him as he was going up and just going down. So he kept giving kept giving stupid little fouls for nothing in the middle of the park. Scotland could have had 2 penalties, I think. The one with Scott McTominay, if it wasn't a penalty, it was a clear foul. The one with
yeah.
Billy Gilmore, the boy does get the ball, but is there follow through? You never know. But and then Belarus could have had a red card,
You should
or
have had a red card. Yeah,
should have had a red card. Yeah, absolutely mental. The VAR team must have been, uh, you know, come from the same ref academy as him or something like that. You know, they've all come up together because, yeah, they didn't. He wasn't very good at all. I thought, yeah.
yeah. Nikola Dabanovic, he was the Montenegrin referee. Yeah, that was, you said most of the things that I picked up on, but there was so many times the Belarusian players were doing foul throws as well that were just
Yeah,
not given.
the
Uh,
commentators were losing it, man.
Yeah, and he missed that. There was one, I think it cancelled out in the second half, but he missed like a clear corner kick that everyone could see was a corner to Scotland, and he gave a goal kick. And that's ones that can happen on any day, but it just seemed like every decision was just one of the wrong ones. The John Souttar incidents were just mind-boggling, really. And then even when he gave Ben Gannon-Doak a yellow card, I was like, I know he's kind of followed through and it's a foul, but he's got the ball. It's not a bad tackle. And then look at how I think it was Vladislav Kalinin didn't get sent off for the tackle on Lewis Ferguson is beyond me. I thought that was a straight red card, a terrible tackle. It's nowhere near the ball, and Lewis Ferguson, well, looks like he's came away pretty unscathed, luckily. But yeah, and then if he's not given a penalty for the Scott McTominay, the foul on Scott McTominay, then how he's not seeing that as a foul, I don't know. But yeah, we're allowed to laugh at these things now because Scotland have got the result. We're not making excuses. But no, a positive camp for for Steve Clarke and his players, and he'll be gaining a lot of more support in his corner because obviously there's a few people, including ourselves, that aren't too sure about him in the long term future. But if he keeps picking up results and gets us to the first World Cup in forever, then
Our lifetimes as well.
but yeah, of our lifetimes, of course, yeah, and odds are stacked against us based on a UEFA ranking. I think we're like 23rd or 24th ranked in the FIFA World Rankings out of the UEFA teams or European teams. So yeah, but there's no reason why we can't be there. And I think I was looking at the scenarios last night. If we beat Greece at home, which is a big if, as I've said, and then we beat Belarus at home, and while we beat Belarus at home, that would put us to 10 points. You'd imagine Denmark would beat Belarus, they would go into 7, and then in their second game of the camp, they would play Greece, and they could go to 10, which would mean Greece would have no chance of making it out of the group with 2 games to spare, which would be a ideal scenario because then possibly we play Greece with them not having much to play for. And I know it doesn't always work out that way as well because sometimes it looks like, oh, they don't have anything to play for, you just roll them over, but they'll maybe want vengeance at the fact that
Pride's a
they've
big
had a really good campaign.
pride's a big motivating factor, I think.
Yeah, of course, exactly that. And if they've been had a really poor or a terrible campaign. That would be if they lost twice to Denmark and once to us and didn't really start their campaign at all. Then they would be frustrated and they would want to stop us from having any chance. And then the ideal scenario for Scotland is that they go into that 6th game against Denmark at Hampden with both teams on level points and a shootout possibly to see who goes to the World Cup. But that is a long, long way away. We've still got 3 90-minute games to be played, and they're all as serious as the next one. So, yeah, take one game at a time. I know I'm looking at fantasy scenarios, possibly, but that this is what football's about: getting excited. And as Scotland fans, yeah, we don't always have the most things to get excited about. So, yeah, I'm feeling a lot more confident about this campaign than I was uh, at the start of the last week. So no, Steve Clarke and the players have got me in a really good place, feeling for the national team, and hopefully they continue it into the 2 massive games with the home advantage at Hampden next month.
Yeah, and we will of course be back to cover that at the time. But that'll do it for the international break, the international coverage on the Dugout podcast. Next week, we'll be back to league action. Fantastic. Looking forward to that. Obviously, some big games this weekend in the SPFL. Rangers hosting Hearts, Celtic going away to Rugby Park as well. So that's the big games for the Glasgow clubs. Two tough fixtures. Can Rangers finally get their first league win? There's been a lot of controversy surrounding Celtic. There's been loads of rumours that Brendan Rodgers is currently trying to engineer an exit from Celtic, and Jim Goodwin.
I think that I'm going to write that off as a load of rubbish. I think
Yeah, me
Brendan
too.
Rodgers.
Me too. But it's just funny to speculate, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. And of course, it looks like the former Celtic manager, or most recent former Celtic manager, Ange Postecoglou, will be going to Nottingham Forest to link up with his.
He's been
His
officially announced now by
has
Forest.
it?
He's the new Nottingham Forest manager.
Oh, interesting. He'll be linking up with sort of his countrymen, and Marinakis. So yeah, that's a really interesting one. And from a football point of view, I'm happy to see him back in the Premier League, because I think football as a whole in Scotland and in England at points has been pretty dire to start the season so far in a lot of the games. Too much tactics and try to nullify the other team rather than actually try to beat the other team so far. So yeah, hopefully that changes and we see some entertaining matches, especially in the Scottish Premiership. And I know we have seen some so far, but the last weekend we had a few stinkers. So hopefully it's back to some good stuff this weekend. But no,
Falkirk,
a good camp for Scotland.
Falkirk St Mirren, Hibs, Dundee United are two other standouts for me. And then Dundee versus Motherwell, hopefully for Motherwell, that'll be their first league victory of the season. And then Aberdeen trying to get off the mark. They're at home to Livingston. So, do you know, Kilmarnock and Celtic's a 3 o'clock kickoff on Sunday?
Yes, I think I did see that. Yeah,
It's not televised either.
is it not?
Uh,
What's the televised game of the weekend? Oh, Hibs Dundee United.
Yeah, on Premier Sports. But aye, that's quite interesting. But that'll do it for today's episode. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. Thank you to Ethan. Make sure to go and check out the Twitter at the Dugout 2024. Make sure to go check out the TikTok at the Dugout. Check out the Spotify if you just want to listen rather than watch. If you're on the go, it's easier than YouTube unless you've
Rate
kind
it 5 stars as well.
eh?
Rate it 5 stars, the podcast, please, on Spotify, and
Yeah,
like and subscribe on YouTube.
yep. Make sure to do all that. Follow on Twitter, follow on TikTok. Um, yeah, just across all platforms. We really appreciate your support and tuning in, and because we do really enjoy doing this, and we appreciate we're not the biggest channel, we've not got the best camera quality, but we're just trying to make our way up. And we really appreciate all your support. Thank you and goodbye.